So, how is everyone? I hope you're all well. So, thought I'd touch on something. A lot of you had reached out to me regarding the Everyone Counts documentary. Now, I don't know how many of you know what this documentary is about, how many of you have seen it, but it's looking at the area of Auburn. Now, they take in and can take in resources from Placer County. They're all part of the same melting pot, if you like. But this specifically looks at potential corruption in these areas. We've obviously looked at the Kylie Rodney case, and we kind of feel that that weren't handled correctly. You know, law enforcement didn't seem to have that much interest at all. We saw the way in which Kylie's vehicle was extracted from the reservoir itself, and you know, that was just, well, we saw in plain sight that that was just, it wasn't done right. You know, a crime scene should be secured. It should be handled with kid gloves, if you like, to make sure that there is no contamination. And that in the event that they need to go back, they need to check for other clues. You know, they can do so. And there's going to be no issues later on down the line if this should happen to go to court and there's other people involved, where you can say that the crime scene was potentially contaminated. It's all about integrity of that site, and you know, we saw how that was handled and that wasn't done right. Anyway, I digress. So this documentary specifically looks at 10 murders. It looks at murders. Well, I say murders, I'm kind of jumping the gun there. They didn't actually say that they were murders, but the thoughts and feelings is that the community feels that the likelihood is these are murders. And, you know, the law enforcement mafia has decided to deem these as not murders. These are a bunch of homeless delinquents who have got drunk and subsequently either thrown themselves in front of a train or thrown themselves into a river. And friends and family of these victims have come forward. I'm going to put this up on the screen quickly just so you can see. I don't know how many of you are indeed familiar with this. So I put myself up in the middle so you can see. So this was brought together by people. These were PIs, basically. These were investigators who were working on these cases and been asked to look at them by the families. Because I'll give you an example. So one of the guys was deemed to be basically homeless. He was noted as being a drunk homeless guy, when in fact he had a home, he had a brand new truck. His brother had stated that he's likely to have had $20,000 to $30,000 worth of savings sort of squirreled away. You know, he wasn't one to trust banks, so it's probably sitting under his mattress. And on the day, it had been noted by people that he had claimed to have been being chased. And, you know, it's all these little things. There was another guy he was a homeless guy. He was homeless, but someone had witnessed an altercation between him and members of law enforcement. When they did the autopsy, there was injuries consistent with being handcuffed. And they felt that, you know, he'd potentially been thrown into the damn river by law enforcement. So a lot of things were brought up, and that's not all. There was a guy who had lost his life apparently by laying down on train tracks and being decapitated by the train. And then when his parents went to look at him after the incident, he'd clearly had defensive wounds on his hands, and these were things that were being ignored. But all of these people, these were like 10 people in a very close proximity to one another after years and years of these things not happening. And any approach to law enforcement regarding, look, something's not right here, was met with a stonewall. And it was like, well, there's nothing to prove that this is foul play. There's nothing to indicate any form of foul play. And people are like, well, the fact that this doesn't happen around here, and we've now got 4 or 5 people within sort of months of one another that are turning up sort of deceased, and you know, it's unheard of. It's unheard of. And they were trying to pass them off as, like I say, as drunks, as homeless people who, they didn't have a job, they had issues. There was a guy who was he was a swimming pool designer. He would make swimming pools, and it's crazy. But look, so this is what we've got. We've got an area that clearly has an issue. They had an issue, and it was shown that law enforcement just weren't interested. Hospital paperwork listed Calvin's extensive injuries as a result of an assault due to the nature of his injuries. The Kelly said the medical professionals who cared for Calvin told them he was most likely beaten before he was hit by the train. And that's just one of these cases. You know what I mean? That is literally one of them. And so does it happen? And are we, when we question things, when you see things with your own eyes that don't look right, are we wrong to truly question what is going on? What is the motive? And all these people from around here, they're saying, look, murder is bad for business. It is bad for business. These places rely on people coming in and spending their money. And you start throwing into the mix that people are mysteriously dying, then that is going to impact that community. So it's about keeping things hush, dealing with things quickly, and making them look like they are self-inflicted. So there is no risk to the community. But the biggest question of all, is there a risk to the community? And what are they truly hiding? I'll catch you all in the next one.